This Consumers Real Estate Show is brought to you by American Real Estate Media, the country's top consumer-oriented media company, bringing you all the greatest resources and latest information in all things residential real estate. Now here's your host and answer man, Barry Miller, along with consumer guy Larry Stanley.
Whoa, there's lots of energy in the market. There's lots of energy in the room today, the studio today. Champions of the people, my gosh, they stir things up. They help people. They help you in all kinds of matters today, all kinds of legal matters, from accidents to HOAs. Of course, some people would say they're synonymous, Larry, accidents and HOAs, but that's what our friends Bell and Pollock talked about today, and that HOA that's looking for something called policy governance. So when a decision is made, you can't have discussions with the minority point of view. Be careful of policy governance. It can be very misleading and very controlling. And, oh, yeah, we're going to make a decision. The decision was 6-5, and all of a sudden the 5 minority votes cannot speak once they leave the meeting. Be careful of policy governance on that HOA. It doesn't always work in trade associations either. It has a lot to do with control. Be careful about control. Oh, did I say control? Larry, our theme today for home buyers and home sellers, because that is to whom we speak primarily on this show, is how to receive higher level services every time, every transaction, how to get higher level services. Don't be controlled by the agent. Don't be controlled by the past. Be aware that agents have a fiduciary legal, absolutely legally binding duty to be your protector, to be your advocate, to be your negotiator, and to, if you're the seller, have your objectives met. And guess what they have to do if you're the buyer and they're your buyer agent? To have your objectives met. Whatever your objectives are legally, whatever those legal objectives are, it's your agent's duty to get those. So our theme today is how you, the consumer, can and will easily receive higher level services every time. Larry, that's our theme.
Well, I think it's a great theme, and Barry, the simplest thing I can tell people, if you want higher level services, hire the right real estate agent. Interview agents and find one who really has your interests ahead of their own.
What about lenders? How do lenders fit into this?
Exactly the same way. Interview lenders, find one who's going to help you and not help themselves.
So you get higher interest rates?
No, you get lower interest rates.
Oh, maybe. We'll find out. But you get higher level services. You want, ladies and gentlemen, as home buyers and home sellers too, but home buyers in particular, you want the highest level services from a lender. And typically, we'd all say, typically, you want the lowest rates, as long as it's not going to cost you an extra arm or two, etc. But how are we going to sort through that? Oh, let's talk with a lender. How about all the data? What's going on in the marketplace? Let's talk with this particular lender. Lonnie Glessner is with us, ladies and gentlemen. He is one of Denver's premier financial advisors. Oh, and by the way, did I say that he has a personality? I think you do, don't you, Lonnie? You do, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm a geek with personality.
A geek with personality. Lonnie Glessner. He is a lender with Draper and Kramer Mortgage. Today, more than that, we're going to talk about loans. We built into it. It's important to receive the highest level services when you're a home borrower, etc. And when you're a home seller looking at the next move that you're making, loans are important to you. But Lonnie also provides lots of data, very good data, weekly for the real estate industry here in the Denver metro area. So he is a data geek, a financial advisor with a personality. He's also a guy who cares about you, the consumer. And in the real estate industry, heck, he's a teacher and coach for a lot of real estate agents and for you as consumers, too. So, Lonnie, what is going on in the interest rate and the residential home loan market? And then let's expand it to what's going on in the marketplace.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you bet.
This week was an incredibly crazy week.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Isn't it the craziest in, I don't know, almost a decade?
Yeah, for me, when I look at the mortgage bond and treasury markets, it was maybe the craziest I've ever seen in 22 years. Like yesterday at about noon, the 2.5% mortgage bond was up like 81 basis points.
Oh, wow.
I've never seen prices improve that much in one day. I've seen them drop that much in one day, but never improve that much.
Now, that's for our listeners who are consumers primarily. Realtors don't know much of this either. They should. What is a basis point?
It's basically a penny per. Each point is a penny to the price of a loan.
A 1/100th. We say on our show, quote, not you the lender locally, you don't set the interest rate. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, our listeners know enough who they are, et cetera, and other markets, of course, like that, secondary money markets. They set the rate, but they typically, home loans are quoted in 1/8%. Well, 1/8% is how many basis points?
That's basically 50.
When
it comes to price. One eighth is 12 and a half.
And so while we, the consumers, look at loans in 1/8, you lenders have to deal with 1/100th.
Correct.
That affects the marketplace. And you're saying you saw 81 basis point rise yesterday. That's 0.8%. That's a lot of money.
That is. I was shocked. I've seen prices drop like that, but never rise like that.
Yeah, this last week was really something. What is the effect on our listeners who are looking for a home loan?
Well, definitely. I mean, housing just became more affordable in the last week because rates dropped by a strong 1/4 to 3/8 of a point. So that makes housing 3 to 5% more affordable this week compared to last Saturday when you were on the air then.
Did you hear that? Say that again.
Homes are 3 to 5% more affordable today than they were a week ago.
More affordable today. This is a heck of a good marketplace we're in. We'll be talking a lot about that. How about our theme, though, receiving higher level services? Look, you're a quality, high level service guy. What about your aspect of the industry and like the brokerage, real estate, residential brokerage business? Too many services aren't high enough. How do you see it? What can consumers do to improve their personal plight and be assured that they'll receive higher level services?
Well, I have several ideas. One is, especially if they are buying a home in today's super red hot market, they got to make sure that they have their loan officer's cell phone number and that their loan officer is going to answer the phone evenings and weekends. Because when are you out looking at homes, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer? Evenings and weekends. And if your lender, your loan officer is not available on the weekends, you need to tell them goodbye because they can't help you.
You know, it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing, and you did not know this, but Larry's View today is also about getting highest level services from a buyer agent. Larry's going to focus on the buyer side of the transaction, and he is saying the same thing about real estate agents. Make sure they're available when you need them.
Correct.
And that's the same with the lender.
Yep, and maybe even more so, because so many of us as lenders, you know, a lot of them work in big banks or at the Quickens of the world. And you know what? They can promise you the moon, but if they're not available on the weekends to help you when you really need them, you're SOL.
How about the evenings?
Yeah,
you might need them in the evening. Same thing.
That's why, you know, I've been doing this 22 years and I'm available evenings and weekends to help you, to serve you.
See, ladies and gentlemen, the Barry and Larry Show. We didn't even say our name yet, Larry. We're the Barry and Larry Show. Larry Stanley, the consumer guy. I'm Barry Miller, the consumer advocate, longtime realtor. Realtor emeritus status now. That doesn't mean I've retired, however.
It
Just means you're old.
Oh, boy. I am outnumbered. Lonnie, it's been nice having you. See ya. Hey, don't you be agreeing with that consumer guy so readily. Yes, we do. Yep, we are. We are older today. You know what? I have a young boy at home. He's 8. He's older today than yesterday, too. So I still feel that we're all in this together, getting older one day at a time. Yep. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Lonnie Glessner is also, a true data geek, one of the few really people in the whole industry in the metro area. I mean, we have really about a half a dozen to a dozen top people throughout the metro area. Lonnie, you're in the lending business, but it doesn't matter. We're all in this residential real estate market together. And you're one of the special dozen, really, who works a lot with data. And I'd like you to pipe in. You're kind enough to stay through the whole show today. And I'd like you to stay and join in when you hear Larry talk about his view, and I'll talk later about Barry's world. Feel free to pipe in with data. And then at the end, our last segment is all about market data. We'll bring up some things, but you bring up other things, too. And let's share. For our listeners, lots of data today, too. We like to do that every week, by the way.
Sounds
Give
good.
Data and tips. That's what we are. The Barry and Larry Show. Our main emphasis for you, the consumers, is a 3-part emphasis. Think lower commissions. Think lower commissions. Ask for lower commissions because you deserve them most of the time. Think, number 2, higher level services, the theme for the day. And Larry, number 3, what? Shorter length contracts.
Absolutely. And people expect to sign a 6-month long contract. Those are gone. You should think 90 days, no longer than that.
90 days is long enough for most any listing, whether you're listing yourself as a buyer with a buyer agent or listing a property to sell and you are the seller. Think in terms of 90 days, shorter length. It works all the time. Oh, yes, they can be extended when needed. All right, let's take a break, and then, Larry, let's come back with your view, getting highest level services from your buyer agent. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and I am Barry Miller, part of the Barry and Larry Show, in the studio today with Lonnie Glessner, a lender, a data geek with a personality, as he likes to say, and that's how people know him, as a gentleman, as a top-flight lender, but a top-flight data producer. And he produces a report each week for the real estate industry here in the Denver metro area. Larry Stanley is your consumer guy. He has a view each week, and this view this week is getting the highest level services from your buyer agent. Take it away, Larry.
Thank you, Barry. And my tip for the day, during your interview with a buyer's real estate agent, make sure they are fully available to serve your needs throughout the entire transaction. This is really important, that they're available when you need them. When you are interviewing a buyer's agent, make sure that he or she will always be available to serve your needs, especially during critical times such as preparing and negotiating your offer and counteroffers. If your agent is not always available, ask him or her if he has or she experienced team member who will fully and readily be available to serve you. If the agent you are interviewing cannot assure you of this availability, do not hire him. Find someone who will serve your needs. That's my view.
Larry, you're serving our consumer needs very nicely with that view. Good view. Hope you got all of that. Look, soon we're going to be expanding, Larry, and we're going to have all those tips and those views right on the website for our listeners. But Larry, I get this. Look, you've sold homes, but you have purchased 11 different primary family residences. Have you had trouble during some of these times or all of those times reaching the buyer agents during critical times? It sounds like maybe you have some experience in that of which you just spoke.
Well, actually, Barry, as you would expect, I did have problems with some agents.
More than once, Larry?
More than once,
Okay.
but there's one in particular that really, really irritated the heck out of me.
Let's
Barry.
hear it. Let's hear it.
Once I had an agent who decided to take a 4-day vacation after we made the initial offer on a house. Now, the seller came in with a counteroffer during the time that the agent was gone, and fortunately, I was the only person bidding on that house at the time, so I didn't lose the house. But
Wow.
I could have lost the house.
You could have lost it.
And, that just absolutely frustrated me. I think it was totally unfair to my wife and I, and I would never have recommended that agent again to anybody.
So it's not just any time after you put in the offer. You put in the offer, and they're the sensitive maybe 2 days, maybe 3. And you're talking they left right then.
That's right. And it's
Okay.
even more critical in our marketplaces along the Front Range, Barry, because you're going to lose the offer.
You're going to lose the offer. You better be around. I mean,
Yeah.
we're down to hours, and sometimes even a few minutes can matter. But usually in Colorado Springs, it's so hot that hours matter. Agents can't leave once the offer's, been made. Okay, I'll see you in 2 days, Lonnie. Not so good. Not so good. That sure is not high-level services. But, Larry, your point is make sure in the interview process that the agent will be available.
Or you have a team member who will be. Barry, I've got a question for you. How do you take care of your clients when you're on a vacation or some other reason you're unavailable?
First and foremost, Larry, we fiduciary level services are fully aware our clients need services anytime. They may have a critical item come up any day, any time, not just at critical moments in the transaction process. So we always have always have a team member, at least one, who's available to fill in for us at the drop of a hat. And if we know we're going to be taking a vacation, okay, like a set time, and that happens maybe once every couple years. It happens when it's a set time, maybe once a year. Other agents, maybe 3 times a year. Perfectly okay. But then the agents should bring that team member into the interview process and have the consumer buyer, in this case, meet that team member during the interview process. So, Larry, we take care of it by being concerned about the consumer long before we're planning any vacation. And then, of course, things that happen suddenly, unexpectedly, we cannot control that. But we can control that which we know, and we know that our consumers need our services 24/7. That's how a fiduciary level service agent thinks.
That's the way they all should think. They're thinking of your interests, not theirs.
And that is the summary, Larry, of what you are saying in total form. But otherwise, let's keep going. You may have some other questions. Lonnie, pipe in too.
I do have a question
Go
or
ahead.
two. Barry, what can a buyer do if the agent's unavailability causes them to lose the contract?
Okay, there's a practical side to that and a legal side to that, and they may not be the same. They can be, they overlap. Legally, the agent has been not only irresponsible, they've been so irresponsible, they could and should lose their license. They could. But But to have that agent out of the business where they belong, they should be out of this business. Your guy or gal, whatever, whomever, that's terrible. Okay, and they should lose their license in our strictest opinion, generally speaking, okay? But, Larry, to make that happen, the consumer has to write letters and has to have a little hearing, with an investigator from the state, in this case, Colorado, Real Estate Commission. Well, they're nice people. They're delightful. They're fine. They're good servants, really, to the citizens of this state. And that's a good thing, by the way. But it takes time and effort. And what is the purpose of the consumer? What's the objective of the consumer buyer? To get a house. So they don't want to be dealing with this lousy agents, thing. They want to get a house. So frankly, the practical side needs to win out. And that buyer, if they have to stick with that agent, I feel sorry for the buyer because they're not going to get as good a deal no matter what. And the buyer has multiple choices. Get rid of that agent. But if they're in the market and they see a couple houses and they think they have to stick with that agent to get the next house that they want, they need to stick with that agent. But you buyers, this is the one time you hear it here on this show frequently. When you are a home buyer, you are supposed to be taking care of the one and only number one. That's you, the buyer. This is the time to be very selfish and self-serving. Look, if agents are not serving your interests, they're breaking the law. I don't mind saying that openly. They're breaking the law when they're your fiduciary agent because they're obligated to help you. But you have to help yourself. Do what's right, practically and legally speaking, for yourself when you're a buyer. I hope that makes it doubly clear.
I think you did well there, Barry, but I want to bring up something that just drove me wild on the first two houses that I purchased.
Wow. Tell us this.
What can a buyer do if the agent will not take the time to answer their questions properly?
Oh, boy.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was a 22-year-old kid when I bought my first house. I didn't know what was going on, and the guy wouldn't spend 2 minutes explaining stuff to me. It drove me nuts.
At what point were they not answering your questions? I assume in the interview process.
Well, there wasn't much of an interview, unfortunately, because I didn't know how to find an agent back then, Barry.
Got it. I got it. We don't want to, and many of our consumers can be in that same reverse, almost catch-22 situation. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know. Okay, interview agents, but as soon as if you've interviewed an agent and you're asking them questions after you've hired them and they're not answering the questions, that's the time to have as I heard some good people say on TV the other day, have a come to Jesus meeting, and you better have a come to Jesus meeting and decide if you're going to keep that agent or not. You want help in that? Call us. We won't automatically say get rid of that agent. We'll help you. We'll help you help yourself. But you better decide if you're going to have that agent who's not answering questions, you are in trouble, most likely. Lonnie?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I do, I tell my clients in the very first phone call I have with them, please know this, there is no such thing as a stupid question with me. So please ask questions. And it's amazing the responses I get from people of how a big sigh of relief or just excitement even. And that's what I teach to realtors as well in classes is you got to tell them that it's okay to ask questions because that builds trust and credibility for yourself.
It sure does. And Larry, I'm going to follow up. This might be a jump, but I want to jump to March 14th. It's only 2 weeks away, and you should be too. I think it's on your mind as the consumer guy. Tell our listeners what March 14th is. What a great solution to these issues that 2 hours is. It's a solution that will prevent just about every problem that poor agents can put in front of you. It can't prevent what the economy is going to do, Lonnie. Like you saw it flipping, up and down this week, which was so unusual. I mean, it was the most fluctuating week in well over 10 years.
Yes.
And you said most in your 20-year career.
Yeah, at least on the bond market.
In the bond and all that.
Hopefully I made enough money in locking in some refis to offset the losses in my 401k.
Yeah, see, I mean, and I hope a lot of our listeners were able to too. But Larry, we have this good boot camp. Kaya's here to take calls too. I almost forgot about that, but talk about it.
That's right. The boot camp that we're going to have for buyers and sellers of homes is going to be on Saturday, March 14th at 10:30. It's absolutely free to you. It's in a convenient, easy location to find. And we're going to talk about the 10 steps for buying a home, the 10 steps for selling a home. Talk about some of the myths of real estate. We'll also talk about the mistakes. I'm an expert on that one. I ought to run that part of it, Barry.
Yep, go. You're doing well now. Keep
the
going.
School of Hard Knocks.
That's right. 11
the
houses.
school of hard knocks that no consumer in this country is worthy of or should ever go through, and yet dozens go through it every day right here in our Denver metro area. Hundreds go through it every couple of days in our metro market. It's wrong. This industry is not an industry of lousy agents in the way it's set up. It's an industry that has an obligation to be the highest level of servants in helping buyers or sellers.
That's why you need to attend our boot camp, because we'll help you understand the entire process. 2 hours. The mystery will disappear. The veil over your eyes will disappear.
Nice. And the cost is free. The location is convenient. The parking is free. It's a great atmosphere. It starts at 10:30, goes until 12:30 p.m., starts at 10:30 a.m., in the Tech Center. And Kaya is here. He's here live to take your reservations. Get them in now. Seats are limited, but get your reservation in now by calling 303-888-3788. Why don't you give out the number, Larry, too? You say it so sometimes more smoothly than I do. I get so into it sometimes.
303-888-3788. Call now. Make your reservation. We have plenty of room for you.
And if we don't, which we do have now, but we'll make room for you, you're always welcome. And that is Saturday, March 14th, starting at 10:30 a.m. 303-888-3788. Larry, thanks so much for that view and all the elements of it that we were able to cover. Let's take a break, and then let's come back and hear Barry's world. Getting the highest level services when you are a seller. You get those highest level services. You're supposed to get them from your seller agent.